All right. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready, spaghetti?
Ready, spaghetti.
Ready.
All right. Welcome to Media Morsels, the podcast about creativity and the media that feeds it. I'm Jessica, character enthusiast and aesthetic connoisseur.
I'm Jamie, plot guy and the summarizer.
I'm Tien, but my friends call me Chicky, and I will tell you how saucy a movie is.
And I'm Claire. I'm kind of the extra guest sitting in today.
Your titles will come to you in time.
I feel like maybe Cian's should be Sauce Master.
Oh.
Sauce master.
Or sauce mistress.
Oh, yeah. That sounds even saucier.
Mistress of sauce.
Yes.
Sauce slinger.
Oh my gosh. Saucier.
Hey!
Isn't it the saucier? Guys, we're already getting sidetracked.
Wow, we've gone off on a tangent, but we're back.
We're back. We're finally back. And I think we have a microphone set up that is not going to sound like absolute ass.
Unless the dog chews on his ass next to the microphone.
Yeah, which he was just doing. Anyway, so this week's media morsel is actually a special kind of morsel.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be our first half-baked episode. And we've wanted to do one of these for a really long time.
It's a half-baked episode.
I'm so glad you asked, Claire. It is basically where we review a piece of media, like a movie or a book, that had a great idea, but failed or did poorly with execution. And
the dough failed to rise.
Yeah, it came out a little bit soggy and
soggy bottom.
Oh my god.
Stodgy.
So what? Yes, all those things. The makeup of this episode is going to go a little bit differently than our normal episodes. You know, normally we have the appetizer round where we talk about our first exposure to this media, which we might still do, and then we give a spoiler-free summary. Then we move on to like the spoilerific full breakdown of the movie, and then we kind of talk about how it inspired us creatively. I think probably what we're going to end up doing is we'll talk about when we first saw this movie, but then I think we're just going to launch right into the sort of spoilerific, telling you what happened in the movie, and then we're going to move on into, I guess,
the tasting notes.
Tasting notes and rebaking? I don't know. Like
how we could envision that we could save this movie.
Yeah,
and this plot premise.
Where the recipe went wrong and how we would fix it, essentially.
How to
recipe
salvage
revision.
So I'm pretty sure that for all of us, we all see Jupiter Ascending in theaters? I know that Jamie and I did, because we were really pumped for it, and we went, and we were like,
oh.
I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
I remember that experience.
I did too, and I think I might have even seen it alone, which is very weird for me in that time period.
Yeah.
But I was like, Mila Kunis.
Yeah, and Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Oh, sorry. What year in our Anno Domini did Jupiter Ascending come out?
Well, none of us have our phones on us because we're practicing proper podcast etiquette.
Yeah, it's like I don't know that off the top of my head.
Proper podcast, like sanitation or whatever.
Stuff we can
Mitch,
get away.
the dog wrangling gremlin, is also looking it up.
He is the support guy.
Staff.
All right, Jupiter Ascending came out in 2015. I actually thought it was 2015.
So that is 14 years AS.
Yes.
After Shrek.
Oh my god.
Claire, you must remember that is the Anno Domini
okay.
of Media Morsels is Shrek. 14 years AS.
And yeah, why would I question this?
Anyway, so yeah, we all saw it in theaters. We were all super, super hyped about it. And we all walked out of the theater like...
with a weird taste in our mouths.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting
I walked
it.
out like, what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I walked out.
Same, and then immediately forgot about it.
Me and Jess spent hours talking about, like, what went wrong here. Because, we were reading the press promos, and I was looking at, like, film magazines, because they were doing some, like, interesting special effects stuff, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be really cool. And then I had some hesitation when they announced the release date was, like, January or February, because studios don't release things that they're proud of in that time of year, unless it's a Valentine's Day movie. And then we learned why.
Yeah, so the Wachowskis made it, and I gotta be real, this sounds eerily similar in some ways to some stuff that, like, some original fiction I came up with when I was 15 in high school. And it kind of feels like, and I'm not saying this is bad necessarily, but it does kind of feel like a fan fiction of...
really
Surprisingly,
does.
there were so many tropes in there that I did not remember.
Oh, yeah.
Upon rewatch, I was like, wow.
And that is not to diss on fanfic at all.
No,
Because some fanfic is fucking fantastic, and it's, like, basically professionally written, and it's awesome. But this kind of feels like your first little foray into either fan fiction or, like, trying to create your own original fiction, and so you're smushing a bunch of different, like, elements together that maybe don't go easily together.
To me, it just seemed like the Wachowski sisters dug up their old Wattpad profile and just went wild with it.
Yeah.
They were given a big budget and went ham.
Yeah, they're like, finally, we can realize our
their
dreams.
pet project.
So, yeah, should we just dive right into this
we should give
spectacle?
Something of a summary at least.
A spoiler-free summary?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Give this spoiler-free summary.
Yeah.
Well, that is your job, summarizer.
Mm-hmm. Jupiter Jones's life is in the toilet because she's cleaning toilets.
Oh my gosh.
How
How long did it take you to come up with that one?
In the car on the way back from getting Chinese food.
Okay.
Thank you for dinner, by the way.
Yeah, sure. That was our morsel media instead of media morsels. But she is a toilet cleaner. Her life sucks. She hates it. But then weird space shit starts happening, and it's revealed that she's the queen of the universe, and everybody wants to kill her. And the rest of the movie is all about that.
And
also, she has a hot werewolf boyfriend.
He's not a he's like a werewolf angel boyfriend.
Yeah, I was like, he has wings. That's also...
But he's a fallen werewolf angel boyfriend.
We need to save this full dissection for what passes for the main course.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come up with our, like, sort of the format for these episodes.
This is our first half-baked. We can experiment a little
we can
bit.
experiment a bit. So let's tell you about
what happened.
About what
There's not a recipe book for a half-baked.
Yeah, we're still coming up with the recipe book for half-baked. Okay, so as Jamie said, Jupiter Ascending begins basically with this love story between Jupiter Jones's parents. Her father was a British astrophysicist studying in Moscow, and
I think it's St. Petersburg.
Or St. Petersburg.
I don't think that's important. It's
No,
Russia.
it's not, yeah.
It's Russia.
In Russia. And her mother was a professor of applied mathematics. So they're both extremely smart people, and they fall in love. And her dad was a super romantic, and everything's going hunky-dory, which means something awful has to happen, and something awful does.
Mm-hmm.
As Jupiter's mother is pregnant with her, I guess a bunch of people just randomly break in.
Yeah, it
to
never
their
really
apartment.
explains if those were like state agents or like random thugs.
I got the sense they were random thugs because they were like, give us money and whatever. Like,
you know, just your run-of-the-mill Russian mobsters.
I mean,
That just break into your house randomly.
So your telescope.
You're like
Because
SEAL Team 6.
They
but
know apparently
thieves.
scientists are loaded.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
That would
so-
be the people I would rob.
But yeah, this was
scientists.
the first sign of trouble for me, because, like, much like the rest of this movie, things are just happening. And, like, yes, in real life, sometimes the Russian mafia breaks into your house and kills your husband. Sure. But, like, narratively, why is this happening?
Yeah, I mean,
Also, it opens with her narrating, which is like a weird, I don't know, it's just a weird way they try to characterize her in the beginning and give her like, I don't know, characterization, but it doesn't really come through.
Well, yeah, like, I don't mind a story that's narrated by the main character, but they just, this is the only part of the story they do that with.
well, I think perhaps one of the early problems that we see, and that is a problem throughout the movie, is that a lot of stuff is built on assumptions. They have a lot of ground to cover in this movie. This movie should not have been one movie. I'm going to come right out and say that right now. This movie
Yeah.
should have been a trilogy, or even better, a mini-series, or like a show or
They should have
something.
dropped like 3 or 4 plot lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were
And-
so many plot threads crammed into this movie.
But they didn't have enough time. So what they end up doing is they end up assuming that the audience is going to assume things. Like, naturally, because Jupiter is a woman and Cain is a man, they're going to fall in love. So we don't actually have to show them that process of them falling in love. The audience will assume the chemistry is there. We don't have to show it. Similarly,
Cain is the name of the wolf guy,
Yeah.
by the way.
Alien
the
wolf
male
We haven't gotten to
angel
his introduction
marine.
yet.
yeah, the male lead. And then similarly, they don't actually characterize her specific relationship to her family very much.
No.
It's sort of like you assume that Jupiter, despite her family being flawed, that she is close to her family and she loves them and they love her. But they never actually show, especially not early on, they don't show that is the case. And a lot of things are basically, they're like, the audience will assume it, we don't have to show it, let's move on. But that's kind of what makes this movie, there's lots of action, there's lots of interesting things happening, but there is no heart and soul because they don't take the time.
It just ends up feeling hollow. Like, one of the things that I said after we rewatched it last night was like, it's weird because the Wachowskis have been writing for like decades now, if you include when they wrote the Matrix books. But this specific script felt really immature because, like, you could tell they really desperately want you to care about these characters, but they also don't give you a reason to, because they just
Yeah.
assume you're going to come along with them on this fantasy.
They don't really give you a reason to root for the characters.
Yeah, like to Jess's point, for all we know, Jupiter could hate her family. We don't really know one way or the other.
And her family just does not seem that, like, great, frankly. Like, it's not that they're not portrayed in a particularly nuanced way until maybe the very end. But that was not the time to do that.
No.
Anyway, going back to, like, the very beginning.
Yeah.
So, despite the, like, I don't know who the fuck is breaking in here and, like, killing Jupiter's dad, because he has this really expensive telescope and they try to take it and he tries to stop them and they shoot him. I would actually argue that out of, like, the entire movie, this is probably the most emotionally, like, the emotional moment that lands the best, because they did take time to make you feel like Jupiter's dad and mom did love each other and that there was some, like, there was a lot of tenderness and chemistry and, like,
Yeah, that was
It
like
was cute.
the one
Yeah.
establishing stuff thing that they did.
yeah, the one time, the, like, 5 minutes they took in the entire movie,
to actually establish a relationship.
and it wasn't the main.
And then they
Relationship.
fridged the dad.
Yeah, and then they killed the dad. And so, again, this woman is a professor of applied mathematics, and I'm probably pretty ignorant of, like, how immigration works to the United States. It's a fucking tough biz. I do know that. For anybody. But we don't know if, like, this was, like, the state police or something, or if this was the, like, Russian mafia or whatever. The only thing that we know is that for some reason, instead of going through official channels to get to America, she and her, like, sister get on this literal, like,
Cargo ship.
cargo ship and come illegally to the United States. And while her mother is, going across the ocean to America, she gives birth to Jupiter in this like cargo, like one of those big long
shipping
containers. And fortunately, her aunt is like apparently a super fucking expert astrologer, because she's like, well, you were born without a country or like, a father or any of these things, but you were born with Jupiter ascending at like 21
Tidal
degrees
drop.
or whatever.
Yeah. Name shout out.
Yeah, which means you have a great destiny.
Which I don't really mind that as a tie-in, but in light of everything else about this movie, it ends up feeling kind of...
Well, that's the thing. Like, a lot of it comes across as not, like, subtle at all. Very, like, ham-fisted.
Yeah.
Most of it, I would say.
Yeah, the dialogue is very ham-fisted. The, like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they don't do any subtlety.
So we get through the part of establishing Jupiter hates her job. Jupiter has a boring routine.
Jupiter lives with her mom and her aunt and like a few of her cousins. They all live in like the same house, and she gets up every day, like at the ass crack of dawn or before dawn, to go and clean all these rich people's houses. And she literally every morning says, I hate my life. And she gets up and she's like looking through all these rich people's things and, coveting them, and she hates, I don't know, she hates everything that this is.
This is where I also had a problem with the movie, because they show Jupiter, like, even if you're the, like, lazy teenage daughter or young woman or whatever, she seems almost incompetent. And I've, like, if you've been raised doing these sort of things, like, you know how to do it. You're not gonna just...
You're gonna do it with ruthless efficiency.
Yeah, like, you can clean a toilet, you can clean a bathroom, you don't always need help,
And you might hate it every second of the way, but if this is your life, then...
Well, you'll want to get the thing that you hate over with faster.
Yeah. So, you were saying...
Well, my comment kind of comes in a little bit later, because first we have to get to weird subplot number 1. Her cousin has decided to convince her to sell her eggs, but he's going to keep 2/3 of the money for arbitrary reasons that are never explained.
Yeah, like, why can't Jupiter pocket all $15,000? Why does she even have to give $10,000 to this schmuck? Why?
Like... This is where you question her intelligence, because also they want her to seem smart, but then I'm like, this is not a smart move.
Well, I do think that there is something interesting to be said. Like, this is one of the great things about this movie. This entire movie is talking about how capitalism, essentially, and it's talking about capitalism and classism and all that stuff.
How it literally commodifies human bodies.
How it literally commodifies human bodies, and in particular tends to commodify women's bodies in particularly insidious ways. And this is also, like, she's selling her eggs. That's genetic material, and that is also very tied into the genetic angle that is huge throughout the entire rest of the plot. That's really cool and really interesting, but somehow these ideas feel actually kind of disconnected. It's only on, like, the second or third watch through that I was like, okay, actually, yeah, I see...
Well,
how this is working.
Maybe the reason is Jupiter isn't making any decisions. Like, her cousin's basically
she's kind
like,
of
hey,
like
you
a
should
passive person in her own life.
And remains so throughout
the entire movie.
Repeatedly, people are like, you're gonna come with me now. And she's like, okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, with like very little protest to some of these situations.
In fact, I would argue almost nobody in this movie shows initiative except the villains.
Yeah.
Nobody has any agency or interiority at all.
The good guys are really stupid.
It's not even that. The good guys are always reactive. They are always reacting, and that's it.
But the space cops later, you're telling me they
Yeah.
were
Okay, we'll get to the
Scene.
space cops.
ACAB. Anyway,
so she's going about her daily life. And, at one point, she's been, like, cleaning this one rich lady's house, and this rich lady is in crisis because this super-duper rich man, Dreamboat, is going to propose to her, but she's not sure what she's going to say. And they try to characterize Jupiter as being thoughtful and pragmatic by having Jupiter kind of be like, calm down. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if he cares about you, then he'll, like, respect you if you say... I need more time to think this through.
Mm.
Which I'm like, actually, super practical advice. But Jupiter, have you met super rich people? That's like the only people you work with. I don't know.
How they are.
You know how they are. Like, but anyway, so she's in the middle of this, and she's helping this rich gal figure out what to wear to this pivotal date. And she goes into the closet, and then she hears the rich gal go, "Ah!" And then she looks out of the closet, and I don't know why Jupiter isn't reacting more, but like she looks out, and there are literally tiny little gray aliens, like
Kidnapping her client.
Yeah, making her float in midair with blue light.
and
just
probing
goes to
her
take
or
a
something.
picture.
Yeah. So she lifts up her phone and she takes a picture, but she's like, there's no reaction happening on her face. She's not like, oh my God. She's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Huh.
okay.
And then the aliens see her and there's some
She
surprise
left
on her
the flash on her camera.
No, it
No,
wasn't
her
the flash.
mom
Her mom
Oh,
called.
that's what it was.
And the aliens see her and she's like, oh my God. And then there's like a
they
cut.
MIB neuralize her.
Yeah, basically they neuralize her. But she's kind of like, I think something weird kind of happened. But she doesn't know exactly what happened until, this is where we get into, she goes home. Her cousin is like, hey, you're not backing out of donating your eggs, right? And she's asking, like, why do you get 2/3 and I get 1/3? And he's like, that's how capitalism works, baby. Shit rolls downhill. And anyway, so she's going to use the entirety of her $5,000 to buy the model of telescope that her father had and what he basically died for, which is very sweet. But I'm also like, girl,
Why is your cousin involved?
why is your cousin involved?
This is like the only thing we really come to find out about her. We know what her job is, and we know she wants this telescope.
And that's the thing that like really matters to her. And we know that there's two other things we know. She really desperately wants to believe in true love, but she also...
But do we know that?
Well, okay.
All we know is that her mom doesn't.
We are told that she... Okay. What we are told, and I don't think that we are shown, but this is what we're told, is that she believes the worst in people.
Yes.
That keeps being repeatedly said, but I don't know if it's the problem is I don't fucking believe
she
that.
says
because
that, but her actions do not show that.
every
throughout the
motherfucker-
movie.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
Again, it's tell,
All
don't show.
the very like mega rich, very sketchy looking kings and queens that she meets, she's like, I trust you.
I trust you completely.
This is fine.
Even though apparently I don't trust people.
Yeah.
Which anybody who's spent time in the service industry wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, it's like, girl, you have worked around these mega rich people. This should have prepared you for going to space and dealing with even more crazy mega rich people. You should have been able to see this from a fucking mile away, how cutthroat and merciless these people are. But she's like bamboozled every time. Anyway, so, but while she's at the clinic, Wait. We have to talk about Eddie Redmayne.
Oh,
Because
God.
Eddie
Okay,
Redmayne
But
comes
he
in.
doesn't come in till later.
No, he does. He does come in here because they have to start seeding the plot of Meanwhile in Space,
Yeah. Meanwhile, in space.
and they start explaining the human soup trade.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Human
no,
soup trade.
Not
Wait,
even an
have you seen this
exaggeration.
movie, haven't you?
I haven't actually.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
what?
No,
God
this is fine.
Damn
this is
it,
fine.
Mitch.
You'll want to after this.
Last
Yeah.
night after we watched it, I went to bed and I was like, so, did you know that one time there was a girl who found out that she was the queen of the universe?
And then didn't do anything with that information.
And then had to go to space where they were harvesting people. And Mitch was like, is this the plot of Jupiter Ascending?
Yes.
He was like, where are you
Yes,
pulling
it
this
is.
from?
Well, it's
Also, it's really disheartening to think someone on our Earth might already be Emperor of the Universe and not doing jack shit with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get
Actually,
to that. We'll
That's
get to that.
disheartening.
this points me again to another overarching conclusion I had about this movie. It's Dune, but stupid.
Yeah. Or altered carbon, but stupid,
Yes.
which we'll get there.
Uh,
But so, okay. What you learn pretty early on are there's these three super rich
bitchy
bitches.
siblings.
Yeah.
Bitchy siblings.
And somehow the sister is the least cunty of the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The three of them.
And the most likable.
Yeah.
Honestly.
The three of them own like tons of planets, and they're kind of trying to be sly and alluding to like a harvest or whatever like that. But basically, you see them; they're all on this planet, and there's like nobody on it. It is now uninhabited, and you know are like
They're walking through like an empty city.
and then they're kind of doing bitchy little like intrigue things at each other, and they're like, "Hey, so I heard that Mom." Our poor dead mother, that she had a planet in her possession that was said to be the most beautiful and the most coveted, called Earth. Balaam, which is Eddie Redmayne, could I take that off your hands? And he's like, bitch, no, that is the most, like, precious one, so fuck off, it's mine.
Which, like, what state are the rest of these planets in that Earth is the shining jewel?
But
Shabby
also,
little ass
the like
over here like,
establishing dialogue here, like these siblings, we find out later, have been around for thousands of years, gone through many harvests, and yet they're talking about it as if it's their first one. They're like, I hear they feel no pain at this harvest. It's
Yeah,
like,
well, but we have to explain, Claire. We have to explain.
Well, and it really feels like they're trying to do like the Game of Thrones, like Littlefinger and Varys gossiping in front of the throne thing, except without any of the finesse.
again,
Yeah,
without
yeah.
no subtlety at all, just ham-fisted.
This could have been an entire episode where we get a flashback of like how this started and we get to know the siblings, but no.
No, none of that.
They're
We don't
the-
want nuance in here. Get that out of here. Get that shit out of here.
They each have one character trait.
Yeah. Eddie Redmayne says he speaks like this.
Oh my gosh.
He speaks like this.
He's,
Yeah.
he's doing Voldemort voice.
He's doing
He really-
He's trying.
Literally, yes.
He and he's power hungry. That's like kind of his thing.
That's the only thing.
Go
The
ahead.
sister's really vain, and the youngest brother's really horny.
And he's
like,
a fucking liar. Like, he's like,
But they're all
lying
liars.
is an art. Yeah, but he's like weirdly
Lies are
horny about it.
necessity.
Yeah, but horny is his one character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Sorry. Yeah. So
And the sister
pride,
is-
vanity, and horny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, for some reason, they're all tipped off that something called a recurrence has happened on Earth. And as it turns out, they suspect that Jupiter is a perfect genetic match for their mother, which occasionally happens, I guess, in the universe. Occasionally, all the genes will line up just right, and you will have a perfect carbon copy or something of
Well,
somebody.
the
Who
way
existed before.
yeah, the way they get that data is they skimmed it off the fertility clinic. That's how
Yeah,
that comes
that's
in.
right. Yeah.
But this brings up something kind of interesting and kind of an interesting world building thing where it's like they almost worship genetics and treat it like a religion.
Yeah,
and
the
like,
space people.
That could be really cool.
It could
Yeah.
have been.
It could have.
We could have
been.
looked at all the like
What are the consequences?
of that. But we don't. No. We get that shit out of here. We don't
Yeah.
want that nuance. We're not distracted by that. So anyway, it has come to at least one of the siblings' attention that there is a genetic recurrence of their mother.
And the reason that matters is that they kind of treat it like reincarnation.
Yeah.
And apparently, in whatever fucked up legal code they have, you can will things to yourself.
Yeah.
So Jupiter has unwittingly
Inherited
the Earth.
yeah,
Not
the
just
Earth,
the Earth, like
and
All-
probably more
the royal
assets.
title. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
royal title that comes along with it. Apparently, Mama Abraxas was the fucking Jeff Bezos of the universe when she
Yeah.
kicked it.
Which I want to know how she got there. I'm like, we never get to actually learn that much about Mama Abraxas, which is who Jupiter is like the recurrence of. I want to know more about her and how she got to where she is, because there's anyway, we'll get to that in the rewrite of the recipe section. Anyway, so Titus, the third child, the horny one, he sends one bounty hunter to go find the recurrence. And actually, I think Balin sends
The
3.
aliens. No, he sends the
He's the one who
aliens.
sends the aliens.
Because they want to kill Jupiter, and then it's the sister who sends the trio.
No. Titus sent the trio, and the sister like
No, but-
commandeered them from him by paying them off. Some
No,
of them.
I think, no, it's, sorry. No, it's the, Balin sent the Greys and the 3 mercenaries, but 2 of them double cross the Greys and the one other guy and bring her to
That's right.
the daughter.
See, this movie's so convoluted. We watched this yesterday.
And we're
Yeah.
just like, what?
It was just like all over the place.
Well,
I was gonna say that these scenes take place in like 2 seconds. Like,
Yeah,
if you
they're
look
like
away,
flashes.
You're toast. You've missed the whole plot
Yeah.
point.
truly. And then, like, but the action sequences just carry on.
Oh,
for
they dragged
so
on way too long.
Yeah, they devoted a lot of time and attention, I guess, to the action scenes, but they could have been using that to like orient you and build character.
Or make you bond with the characters.
Yeah.
Even the action scenes are completely incoherent because they use, like, basically tight angles for everything.
And so
you
many
can't-
scene switches.
You can't locate where anything is happening because,
Yeah.
like, Jupiter goes to donate her eggs and the Greys show up to, like, murder her.
Yeah.
And then our broody wolf boy shows up and kills all of the gray aliens. But the first time I watched this movie, I had no idea what happened in this room because it was all close shots and blood splatters, and then suddenly all aliens were dead. And, like, later on, there's what you think is a flashback that's like a weird, like,
Hologram,
video replay.
yeah.
But it's in slow-mo, so you can actually tell what's happening. And I was like, oh, that's what he did.
Yeah. So Kane is the mercenary that was hired by Titus to find Jupiter. And he is a lichen type or something.
Just
Lycanton?
something
A lichen-
stupid.
Something with lichen.
So
in the
basically,
name. So you know
one-
it means werewolf.
yeah, these people in space are super obsessed with genetics, right? So like the Abraxas are like these genetically pure humans, but also there are people, I guess there's this whole industry of making splices, which are human genetics spliced with like some type of animal's DNA.
Which could be really
Which
cool.
Could be interesting.
if they explored that concept further.
Yeah.
And they really don't. Like, it's kind of implied that they're, like, some kind of underclass or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, they
And
don't
also,
ever really
it's
explore that.
implied that they did this because it gives them certain powers, but they never really like
Lean into
Demonstrate
show
that,
that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Like, Kane is good at sniffing.
I, for
Yeah.
one, was very disappointed with the lack of wolf
Yeah, I
displayed
know.
from Kane.
So Kane is a lichen type. He is spliced with wolf DNA, and later we learn that he's not only is he spliced with a wolf genome or whatever, but he used to be something called a skyjacker, which I don't
Dumb
even
name.
know what that is.
Dumb name.
But apparently he had like super special augmented wings, but those got
I'm
taken
guessing
away.
they were like Air Force, but
Yeah.
sort of from
But-
because they had like an organized like ranking system and everything.
Yeah.
It's like a crappy, watered down version of Animorphs.
Yeah.
well,
No, I mean Animorphs is much better.
But-
Crappy,
like,
watered-
but like, not only did he have wings, but he had and still has gravity roller blades that he's
Yeah,
going
like weird
scooting around
gravity
on
boots.
everywhere.
Anyway.
Those were his main power, honestly.
Yeah, his main
He
power
could've
was
just-
gravity roller.
He could have just had that without the whole lycantent
He-
storyline, and it would have been just the same plot.
He literally defeats multiple bad guys with sick flips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does. Yeah. But not just that. We find out like he has lost his wings because he attacked apparently in a blind rage an entitled, which is like a rich person. And he has no memory of why he even did it, but of course he's like stripped of rank and thrown in jail or whatever. But also has later again, I'm gonna get back to this in a second, but one of his buds is telling Jupiter about him, and he's like, he's a lycantent without a pack. He was a runt and an albino.
He,
Not an
He was
albino, a half
a half.
albino.
And what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, I was like,
Half
what?
albino.
How are you a half albino?
And they try
That's-
to make him like this.
Those are recessive genes. If you're a half albino, you're just a person.
You're just
yeah.
normal.
They
Like,
try to make him like this bleach blonde.
It
like
doesn't
a bleach
look good,
blonde
guys.
werewolf.
It's not
How
even
did you
bleach
make
blonde.
Channing
Blonde,
Tatum
scraggly
look like
beard?
that?
It doesn't
you-
even look real.
You know who's bleach blonde? Spike is bleach blonde.
Yeah.
That looks good. This is
Yeah.
a weird
This is like
yellow.
orange bleach blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
and
is not
why?
toned properly.
I was like, you do not look like a werewolf.
Why did you do this
You
to
look like a
Channing
douchebag.
Tatum?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
wonder
Why
how
would
they
you?
pitched him this movie. Like,
I
hey,
know.
you want to play like a
Curious about that
angel
too.
Sexy
dog
angel,
albino boy?
half albino.
With a soul patch and elf
You
ears.
get sick
Literally a soul
boots.
patch. Oh my god.
Maybe he was like, fuck,
I
I'm
think
in.
he probably
Like,
just was like, the Wachowskis, of course I'll work with them. And then this is what he got stuck with. But anyway.
Yeah,
so
this is like signing on with George Lucas before his flop era.
again, this is like when you're 15, you come up with this guy. You're like, he is a lycanthant. He's a human who's been spliced.
But he's also half angel.
But he's also half angel, and he also is like half albino, and he doesn't have a pack, and he was a runt. And normally
broody.
they die. Normally these guys go crazy without a pack. But if you survive, if you're a lone lycanthant and you
If
survive,
you're the baddest motherfucker,
you become fearless. You become unstoppable.
He's literally somebody's furry deviant OC.
Yes. and the thing is too is like what's weird is that like normally I am really into unself-consciously presenting this stuff, right? Like, you know, if you're going to do something like this, you really need to embrace it. It really
Just
needs to be
go all in.
sincere. But somehow this doesn't land that way. Somehow it feels a little too try hard. Instead of just being like joyous and sincere, it's so ham-fisted and try hard that it doesn't. They're skipping so many steps.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
that's
because
the
it
thing.
feels like there's not enough love invested in it, in the sense that like this is a broody boy. This was somebody's baby as a concept. This is like their 15-year-old self loved this. But when you had to condense an entire like series of information down into one movie, you don't have time to actually
well,
yeah,
you don't
lavish
have
attention
time.
on it. So then it turns ham-fisted and try hard, and it sounds dumb.
You don't have time if you devote 15 minutes to each action scene when it could have been 5.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no
So,
kidding.
okay, she goes to the clinic. She's looking at her phone. She sees the picture of the Greys, and she still just looks maybe vaguely constipated
just like,
instead of like shocked.
Yeah, that goes back to there's one character trait for each character. Kane's is brood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jupiter's is
Also, this also bothered me because later on they say they have guys who always come in and erase people's memories. But how would they miss the picture on her phone that she was literally alerted them to, like,
Yeah, they have
her
super
presence that
advanced
she had her
technology.
phone?
Surely they understand the concept of a camera phone.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so she's in there. She's supposed to be getting her eggs, like, taken out. And she's freaking out. She's having second thoughts. But they don't care because they're actually Greys and they're going to actually just fucking kill her. So they confirm that she's like the genetic recurrence and they're like, okay, kill her. But that's when Kane busts in and he's like, blah, 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 blah. And he's like rocking around on his little like gravity boots. And she passes out because they like cut off oxygen to her and he picks her up.
Which is not how those oxygen
That's not how
masks
it's
work.
going to work.
I didn't think they were not, like, giving her oxygen. I thought that they were gassing her out with something.
No,
I think is what they
you
thought.
see in the cheesy sci-fi meters, all the air goes to 0.
So yeah, they're just like that, which
They're
is the
trying to
most inefficient way,
Yeah.
actually, of dealing
I
with
thought
that.
they were, like, putting something else in, and that's what made her...
No,
this movie's
no.
not that smart.
And
Okay.
not just that, but so Kane saves her, and then we find out he takes her to this construction building, like somewhere way up. It's a skyscraper, but it's under construction.
Well, he's a broody boy, so he has to brood on top of a skyscraper.
Yeah.
But he has to wait in line behind Spider-Man and Batman to do it.
So anyway, she wakes up. Apparently, it's been 12 hours, and I'm like, how is she out for 12 fucking hours? Anyway.
She would have brain damage.
Yeah. So, but he leaves his gun next to her, and he's like, I thought it would make you feel better. And she grabs the gun, and he's like, okay, well, if you want that to work, you have to flip this switch on the side. And she does it, and then he's like, whoa. And I'm like, you've literally told her how to arm the gun.
but also, like, why would you give a gun to a disoriented and confused person?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, doesn't know where she is.
Yeah,
What?
I'd pop him. I'd be
Yeah.
like, who the fuck are you? You kidnapped me.
There's actually multiple scenes in this movie where Jupiter could have and should have shot somebody and didn't.
Yeah, so he starts explaining to her that, okay, this is going to be a little bit hard for you to swallow, but actually aliens are real, and I'm an alien. And if you didn't see the pointy ears and the teeth, I'm what's called a splice. And I've been hired to take you to space. And she's like, oh my God, this is a dream. It's got to be a dream. And he's like, actually, yeah, they all say that.
Which, like, that's kind of funny, but
But somehow it doesn't really land. I don't know.
He goes through this whole exposition dump which is boring as shit, because, again, it's all tell, don't show. Somehow he completely misses the very salient point of you are target of an assassination attempt because you're queen of space.
Well, it's like,
somehow
why?
We don't get
Well,
to
he
that.
doesn't
How did
know
he
that
think?
yet.
Well, but here's the thing: if I was smart, if I had actually even a couple of brain cells, and one of the most powerful people in the universe came to me and said, "I need you to find this person," I might begin to ask questions about why. Am I going to be caught up in a galactic power struggle? Why does this one person on this random planet, why does she matter so much that Titus Abraxas would personally hire me and break me out of jail?
But only bad guys ask questions, babe.
Yeah. Only bad guys take initiative. So anyway, he's just like, that's okay, whatever. I'll get my wings back. That's what I want. He wants to get his like biotech wings put back on him.
He doesn't actually need those because he has gravity.
Because he
boots.
says
he has
gravity
special-
boots.
Because gravity boots can still allow him to.
Space rollerblades.
Yeah.
He can
Big
skate through the air with
TM.
these things. If we didn't say that clearly.
So anyway, she's like, this is a dream. And he's like, no, it's not. And then she's like, okay, it's not. Like she accepts it surprisingly quickly.
Well, without much reaction.
Yeah. And then, so he's like, okay, looks like our ride's here, even though Eddie Redmayne at this point has been alerted to the fact that, yes, his mother's genetic recurrence is on Earth, and his assassins failed to get her. So he's like, I want the whole Earth blockaded. This planet is mine. Or whatever. And so their ride shows up, but then immediately gets like fucking blown out of the sky.
And we get a 10 to 15 minute aerial fight sequence that barely makes
It's
sense.
way too long.
And how many times does Jupiter fall in this fight sequence? And
this
he
fight scene
catches her
alone.
in this fight scene alone.
So many times.
At
Jupiter
least
plummets?
twice.
No. It's 3 or 4 times. Jupiter's free falling through the air and caught by
going,
werewolf
"Wah!"
boyfriend.
Yeah. And they level like half of fucking Chicago while this is happening, by the way.
And like, oh yeah, they're gonna memory wipe and rebuild all the buildings. Like, bitch, there are dead people. You
There are
can't
going to be
memory
dead
wipe-
people.
You can't
Falling.
memory wipe that.
So after a
Hey,
nearly
where'd Grandma go?
Yeah. After a nearly incomprehensible
Gas leak.
first huge fight sequence set or whatever. Maybe it's not the first one, but it's the first one with Jupiter. They get into a piece of shit car, and he's driving her somewhere because he's like, I know someone on this planet. He'll help us. He'll help us get off the planet. And he's also been wounded. And this is something that I think is really interesting. I know this is going to be kind of an inconsequential detail, but it bothers me. He's bleeding, and Jupiter demonstrating that she can be resourceful, actually. This is like one of those few times she's kind of proactive. She's like looking through the car glove box, and she's like, well, good thing the owner of this car was a woman, and she takes out a pad and she puts it on his injury because pads are really great absorbing blood.
And they just have a sticky side. So
And he's
they'll
like,
stick
"Ugh."
to your wound.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like,
he's like, ugh,
offended.
what is that? Is that a, basically a feminine care product? And I'm like, so space is shitty about that too?
Like space aliens have the same taboo as...
like, it would have been great to give Jupiter a moment of like, what, ain't they got pussies in space?
Yeah, have a little bit of gumption, but she's, I'm trying to remember like her attitude in the car. She's in a state of disbelief, but she's also just kind of like chilling. She's like, okay, I guess I'm with this guy. She's not having a like, oh my god, I am rejecting all of this. This is some kind of delusion. Who the fuck is this guy who basically
she's not
has
asking-
kidnapped me?
Or if you don't want to go down the panic route, because, every...
That can get tiresome,
and-
yes.
Every alien movie does that to some point, but at least have her ask questions.
Yeah. She should be asking a million questions.
She's not concerned with her situation to a surprising degree.
Yeah, because again, her one character trait is, hey.
Yeah. So anyway, so then they go to this like farm out in the middle of like nowhere in Illinois, and it turns out that another person from the Skyjackers thing or whatever.
Name.
Yeah, that's what I was
is
just
here.
laughing
He's
at.
like-
'Cause I was just like, oh my god.
He has become essentially an Earth cop marshal or something for the Aegis, which is like the
Space
big
cops.
universal governing body or something.
You have to say his name though.
Yeah. His name is he's played by Sean Bean, and his name is Stinger.
He's Sean B.
Sean B.
But also, his house has tons of bees around them.
Which, if I had walked up to that, again, nobody is reacting here. If I had walked up to this house and there's literally bees pouring out of the walls and there's like honeycombs all over, I'd be like, I'm not getting into that fucking house.
Does Sean Bean die?
No.
He doesn't die, and that's why this movie flopped, because he has to sacrifice himself.
Wow.
It did not receive the Sean Bean sacrifice.
Yeah. So, but whatever, we just
But
roll
also,
up.
his name is Stinger, and it's like implied he has bee genetics,
But we never see shit about it.
anything
There
ever.
are several blink and you miss it scenes where he has like a weird honeycomb iris going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
I
when you
I
see-
literally
know,
did
I
blink
saw
and miss
that.
it. I had no idea.
You see a flash in his eyes, and that's it. And
That's
we're like,
it.
what did that do? Did
Yeah.
it give him better eyesight? Because that would be really confusing for a human brain to have honeycombed vision.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here?
So they roll up. Kane rolls up. He's like, "Hey, Stinger," and they literally get into that like just testosterone fueled
We
man
gotta
fight
fight,
because they
'cause
have
to
some
solve
sort of
our
fucking
issues.
bad blood or whatever. Which I guess when Kane bit the entitled, Stinger put his like neck out for him, and they both got
We
demoted.
don't learn that until like 20 to 30 minutes later.
Yeah.
They just have vague beef until
But
then.
while they are duking it out, and while there's literally just been bees everywhere at this point, which again I
Yeah.
would have been freaking
Also,
out
there's
anyway.
bees everywhere.
The bees start swarming around Jupiter. And at first she's freaked out, she's not nearly as freaked out again as I would have been.
She's just like, what are these things
like, what are
around
they doing?
me?
Ah! And then,
Yeah.
and then the bees start like kind of doing this like dance around her and like moving with her.
She is
and
the bee bender.
the bee bender. and Stinger stops and he's like, bees always know royalty. And he's like,
bees are programmed to recognize royalty. Bull fucking shit.
anyway, then he's
What
like,
the hell are you talking
and somehow he knows exactly what's going on at this point. He's like, Your Majesty. And he somehow has put together like that she must be a recurrence of the Abraxas
He got it
matriarch.
much faster than Kane.
Oh,
Yeah.
So random.
And then
Uh,
and then Kane gets really broody while Stinger is like using all his space technology to kind of try to figure out what's going on with the blockade. And he's also like explaining to Jupiter kind of what's happening. He's like, you're a recurrence, blah, 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 blah.
yeah, this is the first time anyone actually bothers to explain to her what the fuck is happening.
And he
Kane's
calls
giving her nothing.
But now I'm questioning more this scene, now that I'm thinking more about it, because, like, why would the bees recognize a human royalty? Like, it's not like
Well,
the bees descended from the Abraxas.
I guess maybe the implication is that
Well,
humans.
What about
brought
other
bees?
monarchs that
It
aren't
also-
the Abraxas?
It also implies
Are the
something.
Abraxas part bee people? Like, this does not...
It also implies something weird about.
Oh yeah, there's this like weird drop in the bucket thing where like, you know, humanity is actually like 1 billion years old and has been like, you know, traveling
no.
through the galaxy and seeding planets, and they killed the dinosaurs to make room
See,
for
that was
people.
really, really cool. But hold on, let me get back to this thought so I don't forget it. This is a story that has a lot to do with class, right? And kind of thinking about class dynamics. But it is also, by the same token, seeming to imply that royalty really is something that is genetic and that
special.
it doesn't matter who you are, but what you are. Which was a very
Yeah.
weird, like, I'm like, oh, so this is the thesis that you can refute, right? But that's just sort of like, no, it's taken for granted. It's not who you are, it's what you are that matters. And something is special about royalty genetically that the bees can sense. I don't know. I was like, this again, like, this is kind of weird with its messaging.
A lot of the messages in this movie were weird because
and garbled, yeah.
this is like kind of going back to the donating the eggs in the clinic scene, but like I remember seeing that scene and feeling very uncomfortable with the portrayal of like women going to a clinic.
Yeah.
And like how icky it made the scene feel when I know they were aliens, but the like framing of it with Jupiter in the room donating her eggs, I was like, what message were they trying to send with this?
It really felt like some weird conservative anti-Planned Parenthood
I
propaganda.
know, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and why would that? It wasn't even like, you know, abortion. It was like she's donating her eggs, so it was like it just felt very weird to me.
Yeah.
I picked up on that.
Also, Stinger says, Your Highness or Your Majesty several times before she's like, by the way, what's up with that?
wait, why are you calling me that?
So, and then he explains it to her, and then he also explains why Cain is being weird, which Jupiter's like, he's being weird. And I'm like, girl, you have known him for like 18 hours or something. You don't know what's
for 12
weird.
of those.
He might just be weird.
Yeah, he might just be weird. But
He
she's
actually
like,
is.
he's being like weird and broody. And that's when he explains like, hey, Cain is really weird around royalty. Like, he bit someone just for no reason. He just like blacked out. And they bring this up, and it's kind of supposed to be this source of tension between Jupiter and Cain. It's supposed to be like he could bite you and try to kill you at any moment because we don't understand why he blacked out. But it is never explained why he blacked out. But also, moreover, you actually never feel like Jupiter is threatened. And I'm like, okay, missed opportunity for so many reasons, but also I'm like, this could have been like the weird, like sort of dangerous sexual tension between them, and it's completely squandered on top of other things that they could have done with it.
Yeah, they were trying to do this is the skin of a killer, Bella.
Yes.
But
Yes.
they did not, even Twilight stuck the landing on that better.
Yeah, even Twilight was like, no, he could actually kill you because he almost does.
Yeah.
Like several times.
There was no romantic tension or sexual tension or the kind of tension that you would get if you were with somebody who would endanger your life. Like, we weren't afraid of him eating her, and we also weren't afraid of him eating her.
Yeah, it's not really explained why she likes him so much. Like, it's just like,
there he is.
yeah, there he is.
He is
and
the first man in a
like,
similar age bracket as her that she is not related
that has looked
to,
at her.
that she is interacted
It doesn't come off
with.
as like chemistry. It comes off as her being like
Desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's Mila Kunis!
I know!
Which is really hard to think of her as desperate, which is why I'm like, this movie had to really try to
Yeah. So
get to that point.
also at this point, she like thinks to call her family, or rather her like cousin calls her, and he's like, hey, congratulations on, getting the eggs out, baby. And she's like, buddy, I didn't do it. And he's like, what? And she's like, I'm kind of going through some shit. I gotta go. And he is like, wah, because he already bought a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, but I'm like, there is no,
But what is the
like,
side plot?
why
It
was the
doesn't go
point? What was the
anywhere.
point of even having this scene in here at this point? Because
Yeah,
it doesn't really add anything.
You could have clipped out the entire cousin subplot, clawed back like 10
Well,
to 15 minutes of the movie, and spent that on places that matter.
It also would have been a lot more interesting if she had chosen of her own volition, I need to get out of this life. I want this telescope, and I want also money to like help improve our situation.
Yeah.
I'm going to go take myself to the clinic and donate my eggs because I'm not doing anything with them, blah, 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 blah. Why did her cousin have to be involved at all?
Why does this character exist?
Unless it was to say something about how women's bodies are commodified, but then you don't follow that through.
No.
It's just the first time she's taken advantage of in a movie where she is taken advantage of over
A lot.
and over and over, and she's just like, huh?
But she's just rolling with it. She's not learning from it either. She does not learn from basically any of this.
Yes.
So anyway, long story short, the mercenaries find them. They do manage to get a message out to the Aegis, which is like, again, this like governing body in the universe. And they're like, we're working on getting past the blockade so we can come get you. But before they can do that, the mercs come and find them, the other rivals, and they, start having a fight, which boring. Jupiter gets separated from the rest of them, and two of the mercs kill one of the other mercs, and they grab her and they put her in their spaceship and somehow get around the blockade. It is never explained how they do that, but they get around the blockade.
You have to assume that they have some sort of back door
Yeah.
funded by
But
their wealthy.
It's not explained at all because the other invisible spaceship that they were supposed to be getting off the planet on got blown up.
Yeah, it's a built on assumption.
Yeah, but anyway, they take her to what we learn is her daughter, not her daughter, Mama Abraxas's daughter, which I can't even remember her name right now. Kalik. Yeah, Kalik. And she brings Jupiter there. They meet each other, and she's like, "It's so strange, like looking into your face. You look exactly like my mother. Here, let me show you." They go into this like big room full of like candles to the statue of Mama Abraxas, and her Kalik is trying to explain like, "Hey, me and my mom didn't have the best relationship when she was alive." Which, by the way, she lived 91,000 years. I'm 14,000 years old. Anyway.
But anyway.
She's like, I was
an
hoping
aside.
that this would be a new start for us. And
Which, like, this is one of the few parts of the movie that actually kind of lands, because Khalik kind of describes, like, genetics as a religion to them.
Yes.
And, like, you aren't my mother, but in some important ways you are. And
yeah. And also, this is where we start getting into the fucking badass set and costume design, which this is what I will say for this movie. It was really fucking well done with, like, the designer clothing and, like, how they, like, set up all these really interesting sets and, like, soft world building that they did nothing with.
Visuals of this movie.
Like, it's a gorgeous movie when it's not being edited very badly.
Yeah. So then she is like, let me show you the possibilities of your new life. She was like, I know it's a lot for you to adjust to, but you can literally have anything now. You are like one of the richest people in the motherfucking universe. So, you know, she takes Jupiter to this like bathing area and she just like gets naked in front of her. Just like, boom. Naked.
Very normal.
I mean,
but she
14,000 years gives you a lot of chance to not give a shit.
Yeah, not give a shit. Maybe they don't have taboos around that.
Maybe,
anyway, so
but they
she's
never explained that.
Yeah, they never explain it. So she she looks like she's in her 40s. Khalik looks like she's in her 40s. And so she walks into this pool, and this pool has some shimmering stuff in it, and she submerges herself, and when she comes back out, she looks like beautiful and young.
Yeah.
And you don't know yet, but she just took her bath in the human soup.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
People soup.
The people soup. But she doesn't...
It's the season.
She
The
doesn't
season.
get to explain that before Kane shows up and he like infiltrates her palace and
starts killing all her guards, which, okay, I know I just complimented the visual design of this movie. However, they did this thing with like the drone bodyguards where they have these little guns mounted at elbow height.
and they don't have anything past the elbow. It's like they
It's
just
little
lift their
guns,
arms and they're like,
pew,
pew, pew, pew, pew.
They're like Daleks with legs, and I'm like, how do you wipe your butt? How do you...
Or are they
I think
human?
they were
They might
robots.
just be
I think they were
robots.
robots.
But
Yeah.
that was not clear.
Yeah. So anyway, but he goes and he grabs her and he's like, the Aegis is here to help. You know, they're going to take her and get her entitled. And Khalik kind of has this expression on her face, like maybe she wasn't going to let her mom, you know, not her mom, Jupiter, go that easily herself. She wasn't maybe going to take her to the Aegis just yet. It was possible that she was going to like manipulate Jupiter.
But it was a little unclear.
But it's a little unclear.
And-
She seemed like the least shitty of them all.
And I had this very serious question even the first time I watched this movie, where it's like, if Kane had not intervened, would the movie have just stopped here with everything just being fine?
Oh, but this is also, we skipped an important point that Khalik says, which is that Jupiter's former
Incarnation.
that's the word I was looking for, was murdered.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Was
she
murdered.
didn't die by natural causes. Because I remember the first time watching this, I did not trust Khalik at all. And I was like, were you the one that murdered her?
Yeah.
Because she was
So-
acting shifty.
Mhm.
Yeah, she just lets that little detail slide.
But we don't know who did it.
We
Yeah.
don't know who did it. So
they-
then...
Even
Tell
though
us-
our entire society is based on genetic evidence of things, we have no idea who committed this murder.
Yeah.
And they discover it fairly shortly.
So...
Like, it's made pretty obvious.
So then... And also we're never told how long it's been, I think, since like...
Since she was murdered.
Since she was murdered and the genetic recurrence.
Yeah.
So...
No sense of time.
Yeah. So,
Maybe they do mention it, but they meant there's like, I can't remember. 'Cause
Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah. So then the Aegis picks her up. I'm trying to... God, I'm like,
Okay,
again,
I've
this all
got
like
this,
smears
actually, because
together.
This is the one sequence of the movie that, like, for 10 or 15 minutes, it feels like a real movie. It
Yeah,
lands.
it does.
Oh yeah,
Because-
this part.
Like, they take her to the human homeworld, and they don't drive your face into the detail that it's like, you know, super built up and kind of shitty because it's been lived on for so long. It's just a detail that is left there for you to take in at your own pace. And then, you know, she is ferried through this absolutely absurd intergalactic DMV bureaucracy.
Yeah. They're like, we don't give a fucking shit that you're rich. This is the DMV.
Man.
You are going to have to, like,
Well, and this
go
whole-
through a billion hoops.
And this whole sequence is so good because you know exactly what the stakes are, and you know exactly why everything is happening. But it's not like rubbing your face in exposition of like, well, here's the reason that we have to go to Office 27B. No, they're just getting shuttled around and just allowing the details to, like, live in your own mind.
And there's this robot
Yes, I was
cyborg
yes,
guy.
the escort.
This is like almost, this kind of displays how sad the other character building is because just in this short time span, you connect more with this robot than you have with any of the main characters up to this point.
Yeah, the robot getting, like,
because he has a whole
frustrated
character journey.
Yeah.
with all these, like, you know, stupid hoops that they have to... He's like, I live here, I work here, and this is fucking dumb.
He's like a manners bot, like C-3PO.
Yeah.
And he starts out very polite and happy.
and then he has to eventually resort to, like, bribing people.
But then there's like this throwaway scene, but it's delightful, where he meets another one of the weird, like, protocol bots.
Oh, yeah.
And they're, like, being weirdly cunty at each other, like they're exes, and you're just like, there's so much storytelling here just in their facial expressions.
Yeah.
Where was this in the rest of the movie?
Yes.
Why are these robots
More compelling.
interesting.
more compelling than the rest of the movie?
By far my favorite part.
Literally,
Yeah.
the whole
So-
sequence is good.
So, and through all this, I can't even remember, she and Kane are talking, and finally Jupiter starts, like, weirdly, like, flirting with him, kind of out of nowhere.
Oh, they're still on the space cop ship when that happens.
Yeah, she is flirting with him. Like, she is coming onto him hard, and he's kind of like, hey, you don't know what you're doing, Your Majesty. Like, you don't know what it means for you to have, like, a relationship with a splice. And then, but then that whole thing is dropped. We
Oh,
never
yeah.
actually get to see what that means or know what the stakes are. It's just like, he's like, you don't want me. And she's like, yes, I do. I love dogs.
Yes,
I want you to be my
This
dog.
was actually like a little bit funny, but I remember this line being like aired in the commercials, and it was
Yeah.
like that thing where they air the funniest lines in the whole movie
And then that's it.
in the commercial. So I went into this movie with such high hopes, like, oh, there's a romance between like Mila Kunis and like Channing Tatum as like a half wolf. I'm like, this is good because she said that line in the commercial, like, I love dogs, and I'm like, haha, that's kind of funny. But don't get your hopes up, because
No.
that's like the only like.
Yeah. So they have just gotten the title of Earth signed over to her when she
Gets kidnapped
gets
again.
kidnapped again by Titus. And she and Kane are both apprehended. Oh, Stinger is helping out here. Stinger, like, corners them
Well, like, sold
in
them
the
out,
DMV,
yeah.
and he sells them out. And,
And now it's the DMV.
shut the fuck up. Anyway.
No.
So then they go to Titus's, and by this point, in the time that it takes to get to Titus's, clearly Jupiter has begun reading the legal code of the galaxy,
But it
which
doesn't
is
show her
one
doing
of,
that
again,
ever.
Yeah.
one of the few moments that she sort of like is demonstrating some moxie and some self-determination,
And
which then goes away.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and lay in. This would be one of my big fixes for the movie. Giving Jupiter more characterization. How was she able to so rapidly read legal code? Like, they could have established,
That is difficult to fucking
Yeah.
do.
having done it myself, yes, it fucking sucks. They could have had her like, oh, I really hate my job cleaning toilets. Maybe I'm studying to become a paralegal. Or, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, something. Is like,
She
give
could
her a character trait.
She could easily have been studying like immigration law because
Yes.
She is a person
Like,
who's been affected by that.
Yeah.
So I want to get my family legal status, so I'm taking it upon myself to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so mad that
Squandered.
we didn't get that.
Yes.
I know,
yes.
but would that not have made a stronger movie?
It would, and
It
it
would
took
have
us
made like
2
10
seconds
points
to come up
stronger
with that
already.
and it would have also helped kind of build some stuff between like her relationship with what's happening with all these rich people in this like super capitalistic hellscape and like the splices and stuff, how she would end up relating to
Well, how
maybe
that maps onto her
splices and
experience.
stuff more than she relates to the rich people, even though she's always wanted to be rich.
Because she is part of an underclass.
Yes.
But they don't.
They don't fucking do that.
But
So-
like to Cian's point, it's like, you know, I could defend my family, and then she gets power at the end of the movie as magical space princess, and then she could use that to defend her family, but she doesn't.
Anyway, we'll get to
No,
that.
None of that.
So she's brought aboard to Titus's like palace ship or something.
His porn ship.
Yeah.
Because he is in fact floating in an orb of naked people, which honestly pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like that's amusing.
Naked floating
Interesting.
orgy.
Yes.
So she's like quoting legal code at him. Meanwhile, Kane is being detained in a little cell somewhere. And Kane is actually showing some initiative. He's trying to escape, but he is incapable of escaping. But he does try things. Anyway, so then she and Titus are talking, and Titus is basically like being like, look, a long time ago, I was part of this industry too, but I'm starting to have second thoughts about being in this Abraxas industry, which she doesn't really know what that is yet. And he's
Somehow.
like, he has,
She
they
didn't
have,
really catch the ideas.
they have dinner together. By the way,
been
he picked
dropped.
out her clothes, and they're like these really weird, slutty clothes. Like he's really trying to like seduce her.
Also, it's a really,
bizarrely.
really weird vibe because it's shown him as a bit of like a man whore up to this point.
Yeah.
But like that's his mother supposedly is what they truly believe is that she's the true reincarnation.
Even
And
if
he keeps
she-
coming on to her.
And he's like weirdly coming on to her. Anyway, but he's like, I have a question for you. And so he's like, come with me. And he takes her down into these cellars, and he does explain, we harvest planets. Your entire population. He's like, basically, we seed planets, and then once they have reached or exceeded their carrying capacity, the planet's carrying capacity, we go in, we harvest all the humans, and we make human soup, and it keeps us young, because that's the resource we need most. We can have anything else in the universe, which I'm like, pretty sure food and water, especially for the underclasses, is still an issue. But he's like, the one commodity that we need more than anything else at this point in the universe is time. So they, sell people soup to
replace
to
their
replace
dying
their
cells.
dying cells. And he's like, but I've had a change of heart. Because she's, and Jupiter is rightfully horrified. She's horrified. And he's like, yes, I want to stop this too. And he's like, which leads me to my next question. He's like, I want to know that when I die, I can pass my assets on to somebody who will protect what I or we are trying to do. So he's like, Jupiter Jones, will you marry me? And he like shows her this big rock, and she's, rightfully kind of like, what the fuck? And he's like, well, don't think of it like the marriage is on Earth. He's like, it wouldn't be sexual. It's purely contractual, yada, 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 and she's like, I don't know, but okay. He's like, just think on it. So while she's thinking on it, he goes to Kane, and he's like, you tried to fucking double cross me. You failed to deliver her to me. You delivered her to the Aegis. So I'm going to space you for that. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to explain to you, because Kane asks him, like, what are you going to do? And here's another thing. I was like, this movie does not understand, again, hyper rich people, because he starts explaining to Kane what his plan is, but I'm like, he doesn't see Kane as an equal or somebody he has to answer to at all. He would not fucking tell him shit.
Well,
he would
it's either
ignore
that,
him.
or they really needed to lean into the evil villain
Well, yeah,
monologuing
the-
his whole entire
rub it in.
diabolical
No,
plan.
Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, the thing is, it's ham-fisted, because it is trying to explain to you, it's trying to telegraph to you.
Like,
which-
Titus is going to kill Jupiter as soon as they're married, obviously.
Yeah, he's going to kill Jupiter
Yeah,
as soon as they're
I'm like,
married,
you
so that
didn't
he
need
can
to
have
explain
possession
that.
of Earth.
I was gonna say Titus is very like Chuck Bass coded. Like if anyone's seen Gossip Girl,
Oh, no.
maybe listeners will get that, and they'll be like, oh, because
Yeah.
he's like
Manipulative fuckboy?
Well,
manipulative fuckboy,
Yes.
like smarmy, very
Okay.
Like,
clean
clearly
cut,
the guy
very
you
rich.
should not trust.
Yeah, like red flags.
You should
all
look at that
around.
man's face and be like,
No.
Nah.
no.
It smells like bitch in here.
So he explains his whole little plan. He spaces Kane. Kane is able to get a hold of like an emergency spacesuit.
thing. Which, kind of a fun detail.
And the Aegis, like, is trying to find, like, the Aegis cops, I don't know, whatever they are. They're trying to find Jupiter this whole time. So they've pinged where Kane is, and they're, like, on the way, but it's going to take them a while. And while he's at it, I can't remember what the final leverage Titus had on Jupiter was. Oh, he said, oh, if you marry me, I will give Stinger and Kane back their wings. He's like, it's in my power to do.
And then he also did some master manipulating where he was like, At one time I would have held this over you, but I'm just gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
And that's what wins her over.
Yeah, that's what went her over. And she's
This
like,
very obvious ploy.
yeah,
Yes.
I'll marry you. Oh, by the way, so how much time do you think has passed, dear listener, since all this stuff has begun? You might say days or even a week or something. No,
It's
this
been
is
less than
literally
24
less than
hours.
24 hours. This is less than 24 hours. You know how we know? Because Eddie Redmayne, who is like, I don't know, poised in Jupiter right now to
The
be
planet,
ready.
not the woman.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
He's in the planet Jupiter in this like processing facility for the harvest, and he's like, understand this. I will harvest that planet tomorrow. And just
Like,
spite.
before
He was
I
like,
let-
before I let my mother have it, or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Because we need to set an arbitrary deadline for our plot.
to
Yes,
make it
so-
more interesting.
so we know it hasn't been 24 hours yet because
That hasn't happened.
that hasn't happened yet, but he also is like kidnapping her family at this point to hold over her because he's
As
scheming.
leverage.
Yeah, so it hasn't even been 24 hours, but here Jupiter is, and she is in this admittedly gorgeous like wedding dress and like cool crown
Oh yeah,
thingy.
the design
I was
again
like,
was
oh,
really
fuck.
good here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just nonsense.
It's just
And-
wasted in the
Yeah,
movie.
and she's like, okay, I guess I'm getting married. So she's going and getting married, and she's sad the whole time because she's thinking about Kane, who she's known for less than 24 hours.
12 of which she's been unconscious for.
Yeah. And she's like getting married to him, and I'm like, do they not have incest laws in space though?
Space cest.
Guess not.
Like, what is this even legal? I just don't even think it's that legal.
No, you can't marry the reincarnation of your mother.
Yeah.
Like you would think as someone who is like
we need to say
obsessed
that?
with genetics.
that they would be like, hey, that's actually not great for genetics to incestuously
just
like
making
Isn't
the
this the
best
same
face.
plot as Evangelion?
Kind of, yeah. But
So-
bad.
so
a
anyway,
lot less nuanced.
Uh-huh.
she's like getting married and she's really sad and she's having second thoughts, but as
Less horny
usual,
somehow too.
Yeah.
Even with the giant space
Yeah.
orgy?
Oh,
Even
yeah.
with-
But there's still people soup in both.
Yeah,
Just very
that's
little
true.
payoff in the space
Yeah.
orgy.
so anyway, she is clearly having second thoughts, but she's still going through with it, which is another character trait of hers, where she's like
Well, here I
Again,
am.
I'm
Yeah.
going along with everything because I'm
Yeah.
passive, and
and she
that's
is
what I do.
about to get married, but Kane and the Aegis show up. And because the Aegis grab Kane and Kane tells them what's happening and where they're going, and they
And he
find
and
them.
Singer are friends now.
Yeah, they're
again.
friends again, and there's a stupid space battle thing that it's just like, I don't even know why we're here, or what's happening.
It's once again very visually confusing because everything's like the same shape and color.
Kane busts in and he saves Jupiter, and then Titus is like, oh, so you're in love with a splice or whatever. And again, it's like, why are people jumping to so many assumptions? It has been less than 24 hours. And also, I don't know, it's like,
We're already at the L word. And also, this is the second time Jupiter has had the opportunity to shoot somebody. Should have and doesn't, because Kane is like, I got a gun pointed
he's
at
like,
Titus.
and
he's
I'm like, I bet
will
legally you could have done this at this point.
Yeah.
I bet you could have, because he kidnapped her and he tried to manipulate her and blackmail her into a deal and threatened her life, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you could have had your like bodyguard kill him, and the Aegis probably would have been like, yeah, checks out.
Yeah,
but
fair
she's
play.
like, no, leave him alone. And I'm like, you don't know
Why?
this guy is not your son. You don't know him
Or
from Adam.
she's
He
like, "Let's
fucking
just
sucks. He
go."
tried to kill you.
And
Yeah.
let us not forget that she's the fucking queen of the universe.
Basically,
Uh-huh.
Just like-
See, I don't know that she's actually the queen. I think she's just like one of the most powerful people in it. she's
Potato,
essentially, but then again, apparently she's genetically royalty. I don't fucking know. So anyway,
Again, they don't really explain.
Well, yeah, they talk
things.
about like the market share and like stock trading of the people soup trade, like they're billionaires, but then they also act like royalty.
Guys, there are so many threads in this movie.
Yeah.
And
also, there's fucking dragon aliens.
Oh yeah, we
by the way.
completely forgot
Didn't even
that.
that.
Wait, oh, but there are also other weird, like, half people sort of.
yeah,
Yeah, the
there's lots of
elephant guy is
splices.
cool,
Yeah.
The
but they don't
elephant
really
guy,
explore
the like
him.
ram girl, the little mousy rat guy or whatever. Yeah, it's anyway.
Oh, and also at this point in the movie, how earlier we were talking about how much time has passed in the movie. How much time do you think has passed, like, outside in the real world
Like
watching
runtime.
this movie.
Yeah. It
feels like forever.
It's been an hour.
But this is like
And
2 hours long. It's over
It's
2
a
hours
little
long.
over 2 hours long, but and around this time is when we took a drink break because we were like,
Yes.
okay, we need an intermission.
Like, this movie moves so fast, and yet it takes a decade to watch.
I was like, we gotta be
Yes.
almost done. No.
No.
It just kept moving. It kept
So-
going
I remember
on.
you guys saying like, this feels like the climax of the movie. Why does it keep going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because we haven't met Eddie Redmayne yet.
Well, yeah, we have to
Oh.
have her kidnapped by all three siblings in
Yes.
sequence.
Yeah.
Oh, the same thing keeps happening. She gets kidnapped. Kane breaks in and saves her. She falls, like, every
And
time.
he catches her, yeah, with his little space
It gets
boots.
tiring after the first 3 times.
Yeah.
And it happens
so,
like 6 or 7.
So I don't even remember how they. Oh, I think somehow Balim sends an emissary to basically be like, we have your parents and your planet. Sign over the planet and we'll give you your family or whatever. And of course, Jupiter walks
Sign
into that.
over the planet
and-
or the doll gets it.
Yeah. And the Aegis people are like, do not trust this guy. He is going to double cross you. And he's like, well, you guys can follow if you want as a token of goodwill. And I'm like, bitch, what should have happened is you should have been like, you will either meet us to talk to us or Jupiter stays on our ship to make sure that we get through like
Yeah,
the vortex
like,
of Jupiter
Personal police
to this.
escort to the meeting spot.
Yeah. But no, they let them take her
On a separate ship.
on a
in
separate
front
ship.
of them.
And then they
and
close.
taken to a secondary location.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Never
and-
go to a secondary location.
Yeah, and they
At least not without your hot wolf boyfriend with space boots.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she
Well,
ends
maybe
up
get your own space boots, girl.
Yeah.
once again by herself because dumb shit. And here's Balim, and he's like, you look just like mother. No one understood mother
Again,
like I
very
did.
weird,
She taught
incestuous vibe.
Yeah.
me everything about the universe. and he's like being so fucking weird.
And he sounds like he's touching himself the entire time.
Yeah, but he like clearly hates his mother, which okay, again, we're going to get to this, but I'm like, this would have been really interesting to be like, clearly Mama Abraxas had a very complicated relationship with all her children, and it would have been really interesting to
see
understand what is pushing all of these like people to do the things that they do, and kind of like again talk about like how much of it is nature and nurture. Is this genetic destiny?
Well, and moreover, like, at some point through this mess of a plot, we have learned that Mama Abraxas, towards the end of her life, was having second thoughts about the human soup trade. It only took 100,000 years
Yeah.
for her to finally express doubt of, like, maybe this is bad.
And she kept repeating the phrase, I hate my life. Which
Yeah.
you're like, that is kind of an interesting throwaway. Because you're like, oh, did that translate over to Jupiter?
Yeah.
Like, I hate my life.
Well, and again, it's like Jupiter clearly has the capacity for the best and worst that this former person did too. How much of it is, again, sort of like this weird genetic predestination and how much of it is choice? We could have looked at that more, but no.
But we didn't.
So anyway, he's like, here's your family. And she's like, well, how long will we have when we go back to Earth? How
I
long does
promise
Earth
you'll
have?
Make it back to Earth.
And he was like, he does not say anything that should be remotely comforting to her, but she's still thinking about signing the Earth away anyway.
But
Because he's
Also-
holding her family over the juice.
Also, I'm like, from his point of view, I'm like, why would you even say that? Because that's not reassuring at all if your goal is to get her to sign it over
No.
to
like,
you.
lie better, dude.
Yeah.
yeah. And,
You've had,
and
like, so
If he's
so
gonna
many
harvest-
thousands of years to practice lying. Like,
if
do
he's
better.
gonna harvest them tomorrow, then it doesn't fucking matter if he lets them go. So
Yeah.
anyway, I guess Jupiter wises up to that at the last minute.
The last possible
The
second.
literal last
she's-
possible
She's
second.
about to sign on the dotted line and everything.
And then she's like, actually, I don't care what you do to me and my family. I'm not signing Earth away because even if you kill me now, you still won't be able to touch Earth because it was like mine, which I'm like, wait, does that actually make sense? Because wouldn't it just revert back to him if
His
he killed
title.
you?
Yeah.
I don't know. This doesn't
It's
make
not
sense.
explained.
Nope.
So while this is happening, Kane, who now like they had like basically the Aegis ship had to like get out of Jupiter's atmosphere because they were being crushed,
planet,
and they're
not
like,
the woman.
we don't know what to do. And Kane is like, or rather Stinger has to be like, I know you can't say this because you're too much of a man, a broody man, but I will tell you, go get your woman. And so
That you
even
know-
though...
that you've known for 24
Stinger-
hours.
And we do like Stinger again by this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stinger has a very like romantic moment with what's his name?
With Kane.
With Kane.
Wolf Boy.
And he basically says, you know, go collect her, but you're at this point you're like, how would Kane like have
How
a
can
way
Kane do this
to go
when a whole fucking ship couldn't?
Yeah, you're just supposed to assume that he can somehow.
But and somehow he does.
And somehow he does.
He breaks into this facility, which now means that like the hull is compromised, so everything's starting, like the gas is starting to come in, and this facility is beginning to be crushed. And now there's this crazy fucking fight with between Kane and these like dragon people, and Jupiter is running away from Eddie
But
Redmayne.
wait, we forgot there was like a weird like fighter sequence, like almost Star Wars like, where Kane and Stinger had to break through all these like droids.
Well, no, that was when they were rescuing her from Titus.
Oh my
See,
gosh.
it all
Yeah.
bleeds
It's just-
together.
it's
It's a mash.
It all bleeds together. So anyway, yada yada yada. There's this whole like long stupid scene that is just it's not even worth it. But at the end, Eddie Redmayne is like fucking
There's
beating
explosions. There's explosions in that scene.
on Jupiter, and he's like, "My mother begged me to kill her. Do you know what her last words were? I hate my life. She begged me to do it." And he's like having a full out like freak out
Hysterics.
breakdown. And finally, like Jupiter gets the upper hand, and she has a pipe, and she's like, "I'm not your damn mother," which it's like, yeah.
But then she doesn't hit him with the pipe.
And I'm like, this is so unrealistic. I'm
Not
like,
again.
this
She does
man
hit him
literally
once or
tried
twice.
to physically murder you. And
Moments before.
and she's like calm. She's like, "I'm not your damn mother." And then she does, it's like, no, you hit that person so they can't come after you again. They full on set it up to be almost kind of like a, you know, like, I don't know, a Scar Mufasa thing. I don't know. It was like,
I'm like, it's over, Anakin. I have the high ground.
yeah. And anyway, but somehow, I think Eddie Redmayne gets squished or something. I can't even remember.
He falls.
He gets
Because
he gets a Disney villain death.
She can't get her hands dirty. She doesn't have
She can't
agency
make
like that.
choices.
She must be pure. So he has a Disney villain death. But then there's still the problem of, like, you know, they're being crushed by Jupiter's atmosphere.
The planet, not the woman.
And Kane does manage to rescue her, and they're like wasting fucking time, like kissing. I don't know. And then they're like, "Oh
As the
fuck, we're
planet's-
about to
yeah.
be
Well,
Like,
crushed."
exploding around.
literally, there's a shot of
Or
them
their
like
little-
smooching dramatically while their escape ship is like mid teleport, like it's about
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh fuck!" So then they whatever they make it, they get
They
out.
space skate.
The next thing you know, Jupiter is back with her family. Her family doesn't remember anything, but Jupiter has gotten up bright and early, and she's made them breakfast and
and
coffee.
she's cleaning toilets again, but she's happy.
But she's
now.
happy cleaning
And
toilets.
she's actually competent
And
at her
she-
job now.
Yeah, she hasn't told anyone, though she does let slip that she has a boyfriend, which she will never be able to introduce them to because
He's an alien.
he's an alien, but like they're nosy, so how is she going to keep that under wraps? I don't know. Why would she even say that? Her family does apparently scrape together money and buy her the telescope that she wanted, which is very
a nice
sweet.
payoff, but that's fine.
But she's like the queen of Earth. She literally owns the entire planet, but she's not telling anyone. She's not doing anything. She's just meeting her boyfriend on top of an abandoned like skyscraper or whatever and smooching him. And now he has wings and he's teaching her how to use the gravity skates or whatever. But she is not doing anything with being the queen of Earth / the universe.
She's not improving her own situation. She's not improving her family's.
She's just
Or
like,
the
she's-
human
she's not-
soup
She's
situation.
not doing
It's like-
anything about the human soup trade.
I think it wants you to assume that she has abolished the human soup trade, but it doesn't explain that.
No. And how would
No.
she?
yeah,
I
how
mean,
would she?
Kane
It would
blew
take a
up-
lot more.
Kane blew up one refinery
Yeah.
of Balaam's.
And that's
I set fire to one oil rig, and now late stage
set
capitalism
fire.
is
Over.
over because that's how anything works.
So yeah, she just smooches her like wolf angel boyfriend, and then is learning
goes roller
how to
skating
sick,
with him.
you know, roller skate in midair, and that's where
how
this
the movie
movie
ends.
ends.
that is how the fucking movie ends.
Oh wait, I wanted to talk about how in the last battle, how it was Jupiter versus Balaam.
Uh-huh.
How that whole time frame, Kane is like taking out the dragon aliens. And then specifically, there's one dragon alien that he fights for like 10 minutes.
There's
Like,
just the same guy.
You're just like, is this the king dragon alien? Where did this guy come from? Like, I almost start to root for him because I'm like,
why
he's
is
like,
he so tough?
Yeah,
That's his story.
why is he so hard to kill compared to the other, like, you know, average
other
Joe
guys.
dragon
Also, his job
aliens?
is
Why
so
the fuck
seriously.
are they dragons?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I didn't question that. I was like, that's cool.
I mean, at least the gray aliens, it's related to, like, you know, there have been sightings of gray aliens on Earth. Like, it makes sense.
Graylians.
It makes sense.
Like, you know, the lizard.
Yeah, there's like the
people thing.
reptilians and whatever, but they're not dragons, notably.
I think they should be.
What, dinosaurs?
No.
No.
Literally dragons.
Dragons.
You've never heard the conspiracy theory about
The reptilians.
Oh, reptilians, yeah.
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 But no, apparently the dinosaurs were a separate intelligent species that humanity had to kill to make space on Earth, but we don't address
Which-
that.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
also
see,
fucking
drop
cool.
that in there
Let's,
and then-
let's talk about
That's
that.
why, yeah, this movie actually, like, the reason we're talking about it is that it had so many, like, interesting plot threads, but they pretty much just threw it at the screen and were like, here, ideas.
Well, yeah,
and-
that's the
and-
thing. Like the
Like
the-
that you could have built onto like colonialism
much.
and
So-
imperialism and like
What gives you the right to clear out the native population to make it your own?
Like,
I
what
also wanna
level of
say
sentience do you need to be?
specifically there seems to be this hierarchy from like pure human to animal spliced people to animals, right? And although it's still weird because they will still use pure humans like animals. They describe what's happening to the
And
human
they-
soup thing
and
as
they
like
describe,
cattle.
they make clear that it's not cloning because clones lack the genetic plasticity or whatever they
Or
said.
whatever the fuck.
yeah, whatever bullshit scientific reason they use for that.
We've perfected cloning now.
But we
We can
like
already do that right.
Altered Carbon talks about a bunch of this stuff too.
Yeah.
But you could talk about colonialism and imperialism and caste and specifically class and genetics and this weird eugenics shit.
And it kind of winks at it every once in a while, but none of the points ever land.
yeah.
No, because
The analogy I use is like normally like storytelling is like you take all your plot threads and you weave it into a fabric. This was you took a bunch of plot threads and you just let your cat play with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like they have so many points, but you're like, what
Nothing comes
what
together.
points were they trying to get to
cat
land?
is
Because
Leo.
you're like,
Uh-huh.
I don't even
Maybe
know what
blood.
message they were trying to send.
Yeah.
May I make a point? I feel like a better movie that discusses dinosaur evolution and de-evolution is the cult classic and beautiful movie known as the 1993 Super Mario Brothers.
No.
God.
Oh, never.
We're not
Never.
referencing that one.
Never bring that up again.
I want that blocked.
It is a better plot,
my
though, from what I'm
mind.
hearing.
You might be right.
Oh,
I mean-
God.
But with the visuals were horrific with that one though. At least the visuals in this one were like
Dragon guys? Goombas?
they were very
Yeah.
similar.
Anyway, why don't we trot on
Jupiter
over?
Ascending is a sleeper sequel to Super Mario Brothers.
She was actually born
1993.
from an egg like Princess Peach, if I remember correctly.
I mean, it fits. It's somebody's fic.
Jess is
No.
gonna leave the table. She's so done.
I'm like
No.
leaving my body right now. I'm dissociating. All right, let's trot on over into how we would
This is not
fix
the dessert
this.
round. This is indigestion.
Yeah,
This is
I
the
don't
thumbs
think there
round.
is a dessert
This is
round.
how we fix it. This is how we fix it. I think
Dan already had a great idea about how to fix it. That just build some character for
Give
like
Jupiter an arc.
yeah.
Yeah.
well,
Give her something.
give her agency and interiority. If she like that's like the number one fix that would have fixed so much is she has interiority, she has future plans, like she's studying the legal code because of her, being an immigrant.
Well, and that is such a good way to do it too, because that ties like her micro story with her family to the larger themes
It's
of
like-
the rest of the movie.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, Here.
Well,
You wrote this.
You
Yes.
came up with it off the cuff. Like,
It's so obvious, it's right there, and have her learning as she's going. And again, I've actually number one change is this could not be a movie. This needed to be a longer format of some kind.
Yeah.
if you want to make it a movie, drop some of the weird side plots.
So many.
Well, it would not be this
So
movie.
many.
Yeah,
it would be
a completely
so
different story,
different.
yeah.
So if you want to keep all these things, of which there are many interesting possibilities,
It needs to be like
it
an HBO
must
limited series or something.
be a show or a miniseries or something.
it could totally
and-
be HBO with the space orgies.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you kind of wanted to do Game of Thrones, I can tell. You should have actually made it, like, really gotten into the politics and the intrigue and the interpersonal stuff, and you can only do that if you put this
Have
in
time.
in a series. It's like, if you had taken this and then did it like The Expanse,
Yeah.
I think that would have been great. And then her interiority of, like, what are her motivations, but also her relationship with her family could have been fleshed out, so we understand that while it's not perfect, that there is affection between her and her family, and that there are these, like, tender moments. And
Because, like, when they kidnap her family, like, you assume, again, built on assumption, you're like, of course she's gonna fight to keep her family, because they're her family, but, like, really up to this point, her family have been portrayed as kind of, like, assholes, like,
yeah,
and not
that-
even,
and
like-
extremely unhappy, and that
Yeah.
she is very distant from them, that she doesn't really relate to them very well.
and it's not even, like, the lovable asshole trope that they should have done, like, you know, to at least be like, hey, they're assholes, but they're your assholes, but no, it's like, they're just kind of like, wow.
They just suck.
Yeah.
They suck,
like,
and
"Oh, okay,
they're like,
kill him,
nothing
I
ever
guess."
gets better.
Yeah.
And furthermore, what I would say this would do is, like, while you're showing Jupiter's flawed but, you know, nuanced relationship with her parents, at the same time digging into, like, these flashbacks of Mama Abraxas and her children and how she taught them to be, and how their relationship was complicated and probably damaged
Even
them.
who the hell she was, because
Yeah.
this whole movie relates around her memory, but we actually never learn anything
about
Yeah.
her. It's like
Oh,
this whole movie is
you
called
could've-
Jupiter Ascending, but actually it has almost nothing to do with her except her as a vehicle to
Yeah.
For other
like
things
As
to
for
happen.
other
a
things to happen.
reactionary to everything. But
Yeah.
also, that's another thing they could have touched more on if this was expanded longer, was genetic memory and how
Yes.
much, you know, that plays into
Or their
who
weird
you are.
genetic religion thing. Like, that's a really interesting world building thing that you could do a lot with.
Yeah. Well, and
And they
Balam's saying
don't.
all weird shit too. He's like, "Do you remember this mother?" And I'm like, "Why?" There's no, like, actually direct lineage between, unless you really flesh out this, like, we genuinely believe that spiritually your spirit is linked to, like, a certain combination of genes, and when it happens, when there is a recurrence, you are literally a reincarnation of that person, and that there is some lingering genetic memory. Then you could have, like, you know,
Because-
then you could have, like, put those two things together. But as we understand genetic memory, it has something to do with
Ancestry.
Like,
with
actual
ancestry.
They
But she
sort
is
of-
not connected
yeah.
to that
They
person.
sort of make clear in the movie that they're not, like, direct, like, descendants
Yeah.
from these
Yeah,
people.
It is a fluke.
This
Yeah.
isn't like Assassin's Creed genetic memory where you're going back to, like, your
Great, 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 great
seven
grandfathers.
times great grandfather.
Yeah.
There is no actual connection there aside from the arrangement of information.
Yeah. So when he's like, "Do you remember this mother?
Why
Do you
would
remember?"
she?
Why would she? And to me, one of the big things that I would have loved to see is that there's clearly a lot of stuff about class here, and specifically about rich people and how rich people relate to other people and reality and capitalism and all that stuff. And again, to me, the low-hanging fruit is about how status and wealth alienates you from other people, even from your own family. It alienates you from your own humanity. And how and why that happens, and why, when you're confronted with somebody like Jupiter who has suddenly had the literal universe handed to her, why she would choose her human family and their well-being, and even her planet's well-being, over all of that money, when that's what you were taught to value your entire life before anything else, and you really couldn't give a shit about other humans, how that would be like so bewildering to them.
Well, and
like as a choice.
like the movie
that
even
got weird, but like I hope that makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
because there wasn't any really reaction except for the fact that they didn't want her to do what she was doing. But there was no like,
there's no confusion.
yeah, they were not like, what the hell?
But I really feel like if you, like, again, with a billionaire today, if you made that choice in front of them in some sort of emotionally charged situation where, like, you had a shit ton of capital on the line, or you can save XYZ, like some person
Some
who's close to
trolley
you.
problem
Yeah.
situation.
I do actually feel because wealth and status has a tendency of alienating you from other people for various reasons, that they would be genuinely confused why you would make that choice.
Yeah.
It would be like, what?
Be like, well, what does a
Mind-blowing.
banana cost, Michael?
$10.
$10?
Well, and
Yeah.
the movie even like name drops these concepts. It brings up capitalism, capital, and all these things a couple of different times and
Yeah,
just
it
throw away
does.
lines through the movie. And it's like, okay, I get it. You've read theory, but
They
where is it?
They throw out those buzzwords, but again,
But there's no substance
Yeah.
to it. Again, and that's the recurring
it just
thing.
doesn't really hit.
And beyond Jupiter, Cain, the other main character of this movie, in a series you could expand on both
What's
like
his deal?
what's the deal with
Or
splices?
some
Where do they
characterization
actually
from him too?
where do they actually fit in?
Besides space boots.
What was his life like?
Sports.
No.
Actually following through on that thread of like he went ballistic on he killed somebody for apparently no reason. He blacked out. Was there a reason, or is he just like a mad dog? And should Jupiter genuinely be afraid that this could happen to her?
Yeah, do something
Yeah,
with that.
and see, when she found that out, that was supposed to be like a big tension moment, but like they had literally known each other less than a day, so you're like, why would she be sad to lose this relationship with this man who she didn't even know
Just
existed?
mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's, I don't know, just do more with I don't really like the lone wolf trope. It's kind of stupid anyway. But like you could talk about how damaging that is, because you've got a lot of elements here of like how things isolate you, how wealth and status isolate you, how trauma isolates you, how castes break apart communities.
If you have a broody boy, you just gotta do him better.
yeah, you gotta
It's
do him
just-
better.
Yeah.
Babes, I love a broody boy.
Yeah.
Oh, we know.
Oh my god. And
Yes.
there's so much potential there, and they just did nothing.
Like,
Sorry.
this movie was almost good enough to, like, spark the maladaptive daydreaming, but it was
Yes,
not.
but it was not.
It, like, fell just short, and that's, yeah.
If you get ideas from this and like know how to get funding, credit us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like go for it. Like
Do
send us your
The next
fanfic.
HBO
If you like
series.
rebuild this
Yeah.
series in your fanfic as well, if you did like a 200,000 word fix it fic, like
Which
I
you
want
can-
it.
Tag us.
You can
Yeah.
easily do.
You can tag
Reach
us.
out. We wanna
will.
see.
We like. Well, I should preface that with we like some fan.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say every
We like
fanfic is
fanfic
for
in
me.
We like fanfic in principle.
Yes.
Yeah. Also with like again with the ending, that you could have actually had her return to her cleaning other people's houses, because it is an honest day's work. Maybe she finds that she actually enjoys the simplicity of just like cleaning houses and she's humble or whatever. But also behind the scenes, she is also like on her weekends or something going to space and being like, actually, I'm dismantling this whole structure.
Yeah, participating in space politics somehow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That again, that's the thing. Like, you can tell that they wanted to show, like, oh, she doesn't appreciate her simple life at the beginning and she hates it, but then she undergoes character growth, which we don't actually see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is ever demonstrated. But now she appreciates the small things. No, we have not seen that. You have not shown this. She should not want to go back to that because we have not shown
and
that
it doesn't
she's
even show,
changed.
like, she has been given literally everything that she has been coveting the entire, like, first 15 minutes of the movie. She has influence and power and beautiful clothes, but she never actually
uses it.
She never actually uses it. She never actually seems that happy, which you could have actually used to be like, you have all these things, but none of them made you happy, and that's why she appreciates her toilet scrubbing job after this.
But they don't even have a throwaway line about that.
Yeah. She doesn't even get a moment to kind of appreciate and then evaluate and then be like, I don't know, this is actually kind of hollow. This all happens in 24 fucking hours, people. 24 to 48 hours.
And the 2 longest hours of your life.
Yeah, and
okay, maybe not the 2 longest. There are worse movies out there.
The reason we're talking about this one is because it could have been good.
It could have been so good. But this is also maybe kind of random, but you know how for them to harvest the human juice.
The people soup.
The people soup. Humans have to overburden their planet first. That's how they know that humans are ripe for the picking. Well, what if a group of people never does that? What if they are very careful to manage their natural resources and they never kind of exceed the carrying capacity? I think that's kind of interesting because actually what I'm driving at here is, are they assuming that it's human nature? And they know because of human nature, they are always going to overexploit their resources because capitalism is inherent to human nature. That's part of the messaging that's happening. But I'm but what would happen if that didn't happen?
Yeah.
You know, but they don't address that. They're basically it's human nature for you to overexploit and be capitalist.
They also don't address what would happen if the seed planet just destroys themselves before they can make a harvest.
Whoops, noobs.
Yeah.
Which, that would suck. They lost their human soup and their ability to remain immortal.
Yeah. I just, there's all these incipient concepts in there that are just really, really interesting. They touch on so many social issues of our time that would be really interesting to talk about and examine through this particular, really weird, but Fifth Element-y, kind of bizarre, high space opera drama fantasy sci-fi thing. And they bungle every single one. The pacing is bizarre.
And the editing.
The editing is bizarre. They chose to focus on action, not on character. It's every choice that they could make, they make the opposite of what it was supposed to be.
You know what we've said this about?
No. It's similar to Morbius.
Morbius!
It's similar to Morbius.
Oh my
so
gosh.
Morbius will be another half-baked. In Morbius's case, it's not that they chose the worst thing every time. They chose the most mediocre choice every single time.
Which is almost more interesting
It is.
in a weird, perverse way.
In Jupiter Ascending's case, it feels like what they did was they picked the opposite of what they should have done. Every decision, they did the opposite of what they should have done. Mm-hmm. This could have been a series. It could have talked about all these both interpersonal and I guess kind of systemic and global or universal in this case issues and just see where that takes us. And I wanted to have an awesome, sexy, great romance love story between Jupiter and Cain. I wanted it so bad because I was I know this is kind of cringe and weird, but I think it could have been fun. It could have been really fun.
I mean, yeah, you go into that movie with high hopes, but just don't don't do
dashed.
That.
And I'm I think even a 15-year-old might have been able to do it better.
Maybe.
See, the one thing I'll give this movie props for is it was not based on anything before. It's original material.
I like that it was original.
A new story.
Yeah.
And so I'm yeah, that's great, but we just need more original material like this that isn't afraid to try something
so that
new.
Occasionally you get a good one.
Yeah, but we just need some more practice, maybe.
Well, and I wonder if it wasn't that there were too many hands on this project, or if it wasn't, we were talking about this, that maybe the Wachowskis, because they are sort of auteur directors, that they were, either there were too many hands on this project, or it was left solely in the hands of the Wachowskis, and they didn't have people checking them and saying, actually, no, we need to spend more time on
because this is an observation
on characters.
Yeah, this is an observation I made that seems to happen to a lot of directors that make names for themselves. You have your Tim Burton, your Zack Snyder,
your Christopher Nolan.
Oh, Christopher Nolan! Don't get me started. But they
Quentin.
Quentin Tarantino, they make names for themselves as, very talented auteur directors that put, like, their specific stamp on things. But I feel like their early works almost always outshine their later stuff because at some point, people start being like, oh, well, clearly they know what they're doing. I don't have to question or edit what they're going to do.
It's like George Lucas as well.
Yeah, which means all of their bad ideas make it to the screen. And if George Lucas has had his way, we would have had Luke Skywalker getting cured with bum extract in the first Star Wars movie because for some reason that was something he thought would be cool to write.
Oh my god.
There were a lot of weird, interesting, that's an interesting story in itself. But I think that might have been what
we've referenced Star Wars a lot in this.
Yeah.
Well, because it is a space
It's a
opera.
sci-fi
It's
thing.
moving in the same area, and Star Wars has some really excellent execution, and sometimes it has some very poor execution.
But that just goes to show, like, if you cut out collaboration and people get, like, carte blanche to do whatever they want, they won't do some weird shit.
Yeah.
Everyone needs editors.
Yeah, everyone needs a gut check. Everyone needs betas, like...
Beta readers, yeah.
That's how it... Yeah, beta readers.
Yeah, we're not going to an ABO.
We're not going to
place
ABO
despite
here.
Yeah,
the
that's
presence
what
of
I was
Wolf
kind
Boy.
of like. I want to put some disclaimers on the submit your fanfics to us because I was like, I'm not sure. I want to get into that.
There are some things that,
Yeah, we don't need to.
Go ahead. I don't care.
Jamie will be our test
Lycantant ABO.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's what half-baked episodes are about, though. There was so much potential in Jupiter Ascending. I wanted to like it so bad, and there was so much interesting stuff in there, but it just failed on so many levels, and that's what. But those weirdly stick with us too.
Yeah.
These movies they had the potential to be so good, and then they just missed, and even more than just like genuinely very bad movies. And half-baked episodes in the future are mostly going to be us kind of going through and kind of being like a post-mortem almost, and being like, what happened?
What the fuck?
And how could this fate have been avoided?
How could it have been salvaged?
How could we put Humpty Dumpty back together
we liked
again?
some aspect of it, but it just didn't quite land.
Yeah, so,
I don't know, do you guys have any other thoughts?
Nope, I'm out.
yeah. I'm like looking at you and you're like falling asleep.
No,
You're like,
I have spent so much brain space on this movie.
On this-
I'm just like,
Oh, no,
Ready
I don't
to
think
be
I can think
done.
about it anymore.
Yeah.
I have one more thing I wanted to bring to the table.
Sure.
We've focused mostly on plot problems, which honestly, that's most of the problems with this movie. But for fuck's sake, the editing.
Yeah, the pacing.
So the pacing.
Not even the pacing, just the editing, this erratic scene shots.
Well, yeah, like, this is like film 101. If you're gonna have a scene with a lot of motion in it, you have to have an establishing shot, so we know where all the characters are, and to give you a sense of space. And then you mix in medium and close shots, so that you get that sense of motion.
And you
can
need
relate
to have
to each other.
you need to have some continuity to understand where people are moving through this space. You have to maintain that.
And like every aerial fight scene is so visually
And
confusing.
they actually had some like cool technology ideas, but they show it like for a fraction of a second on screen, and I'm like, okay, you came up with these cool ideas. Devote like a little more camera time to being like, what is this?
Well,
What is this
yeah.
cool tattoo machine doing to her finger to
Well,
get a wedding ring?
They have like these really cool space fighter jets with flexible wings that can like surf in water and shit, and that's fucking awesome. But I didn't notice that until my second watch.
Yeah.
Like, is a lot of the weird aesthetics and like editing kind of similar to Battlefield Earth, or is it?
I haven't seen Battlefield Earth, but there's no Dutch angles.
I feel
no
like
Dutch angles. Okay.
well, I feel like it came to like this movie surfaced after the Transformers version of action movie became popular.
Yeah, you're so right.
Where it's
because
like so much action you can't follow it, and you're like, this is not actually that enjoyable.
Speaking of auteur directors that were given a
yeah.
blank check, Michael Bay. This is such a Michael Bay action thing.
Mm-hmm.
This movie got Michael Bay'd.
It's so visually confusing
Yeah.
because it's like You're just getting a face full of scrap metal for 20 minutes, and eventually
Well,
somebody dies.
And it overloads your brain to where you just kind of check out. You're like, what's I don't even.
It's just pretty
Well, I
lights
feel
at
like
that
even
point.
in Michael Bay movies, the action is usually confined, unless it's the climactic battle, the action seems to be kind of in 5-minute chunks.
Well, that was true in the first, like, 2 Transformer
Okay,
movies. We're on, like,
I did stop watching.
We're on,
Yeah, I'm
like,
like,
the 8th
I
or
don't
10th
even know.
one now.
So yeah, but this one was like 20 minutes.
Yeah, no. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That was... That
So,
was our half-baked.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
our
we need to wrap
half-baked
up soon. It's about to
Jupiter
die.
Ascending. Yeah, I know. I'm seeing the light leaving your eyes. It's there. It's gone.
This movie has that effect.
Yeah,
Watch
yeah.
with caution.
So-
And curiosity. There's
Anyway.
much to learn here.
There is, and that's what half-baked episodes kind of really are about. Is we are learning. So they're learning experiences and like opportunities, I think, to like identify what the problems were and then like flex our creative wings a little bit.
Our prosthetic alien creative angel wings.
Yes. So that was Jupiter Ascending, folks. Yeah. So hopefully in the future we will do more half-baked, but we'll probably be going back to your regular programming soon. And thank you for joining us for Alien Mayhem May. I don't think we have any dishes. We were just...
No, we served this on some greasy wax paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're scraping it out of the oven because it overflowed the pan.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Well, I was hoping that our version of the half-baked would be like a nice, beautiful cake, not the mess that we were originally
But we're
served.
not there yet.
You forgot to use baking grease, so now
I don't even know.
There's no parchment paper. It's
Yeah.
just fused
There
to
is
the
no
pan.
continuity. This is confusing. We're all tired.
Good
That's
night.
the half-baked.
truly a half-baked
Thanks for being
episode.
here. We hope you'll come back. Please come back again after this.
If you want to
Listen
hear
to
more
us talk.
half-baked ideas.
Yeah, maybe send us your
Oh,
half-baked
yes, suggest
ideas.
your own. We're so curious.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yes, if you guys have movies that you think are half-baked,
Yeah.
let us know.
Let us
Yes,
know.
submit them for consideration. DM us on Instagram. That's probably the best way to get a hold of us.
Or on the Spotify thing. There's
yeah,
a
Spotify
Spotify
has
Interact
comments now. Yeah.
So, yeah, just drop us a comment
Spotify?
somewhere.
Oh.
Find us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spotify has comments now.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I get it. It's fine.
Yeah, find us if you can. We'll try to make it easier for you. And-
All right.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks
We'll
for
save you a seat
listening.
next time. Bye.